is Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hello, everyone.
So, Chris, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about the 90s comic boom, or more importantly, probably the 90s comic bust.
Yes, early 90s, late 90s. Um, Personally, I would think was a unique era of comics. There's some amazing stuff that came out. Then there's a lot of crap that came out.
Yeah. And I mean, I think when we were discussing this idea, one of the things you talked about was the fact that the 90s comic boom is kind of part of the reason why we might not really buy as many comics anymore.
I agree. I agree.
So I think
Now, like,
yeah,
let's get. No, I was gonna say you start and tell me why you would say that.
I mean, I think a lot of it was I was overwhelmed with stuff when during the boom. Like there was just so much if you wanted to collect all of anything. And I think there was a lot of desperate attempts, particularly because I think the major comic book companies were kind of threatened by companies like Image and Valiant and a lot of these sort of smaller companies that were creating like new things. And they felt that the way that they could sell books was by creating new things, even though they had like these old characters. So there's this constant reinvention of characters that just got like, it wasn't even that the reinvention was bad. It was that every year there would be a new reinvention. And so you'd sort of be starting from zero again because the comic book companies would be panicking about like, oh my God, we're not selling 10 million Superman comics, but they're selling 10 million Spawn comics. So we have to make Superman relevant again. And it's like, don't make Superman relevant again. Maybe the problem is there aren't new characters, and maybe DC and Marvel needs to start thinking about allowing their creators to make new characters instead of trying to just reinvent these old characters. And so for us, particularly people of our age who were already into comic books before Image came about, we sort of just saw our characters that we liked being sort of abused by the company, and we just kind of got bored of like
they
the
they
abuse.
wanted to turn, as an example, what you just said, Superman. They want to turn Superman into an Image comic, you know, and
Yeah,
it did not work. Superman was unique. I mean, I was a huge Superman reader at that time before all the 90s boom because they had you know, the three Superman books I bought were great stories. I mean, the art was good, everything. And when that happened, they wanted to compete with Image. And sad thing is, you don't, way they competed with Image was the wrong way of doing it.
it's the way Hollywood does it too, and they're doing it now. I mean, it's starting to suffer a little bit because we're seeing the fall of the Marvel franchise, but they basically had a boom. And the thing that made the Marvel movie franchise work, and this is sort of similar, is the fact that they took characters that weren't popular like the Guardians of the Galaxy and even Iron Man to some degree, and sort of made them interesting. And that's what made that series, the Marvel movies work. And then all of a sudden now they're just piling on and like, we have to keep seeing more Iron Man. And it's like, you don't realize that your success was the fact that you made something that was not successful and made it interesting, as opposed to like, it's not Iron Man or the Guardians that made this great. It's the fact that you took these sort of lesser brands and made them interesting, like wrote interesting stories for them. And I think the comics did the same thing, where rather than DC and Marvel saying, hey, we could make new characters. We have these like great writers, great artists. Let's make something new during this boom, like Image and Valiant did.
But here's
Valiant
a
to a lesser
question.
degree.
Here's a question because, before Image came about, before Liefeld, McFarlane, and Jim Lee, and Silvestri, and all those guys left Marvel, the downfall of comics was before that because that's when remember Jim Lee's X Men came out, Liefeld's New Mutants, and all that stuff came out. They were doing all these gimmick covers and things like that. So I don't blame Image for I'm not saying I blame Image, but I'm saying Image wasn't part of that fault of the downfall. I
Mhm.
think that happened before Image came about because they're doing full covers, glow in the dark covers, all that stuff before Image even came on the scene.
I agree. I mean, I think there was desperate attempts to make comics relevant And I mean, we were talking about this too, sort of off camera, but like right now, the collecting card market is getting, you have your hollow refractor autograph, and it's just like
Yeah.
you realize that that's just a worthless piece of paper. The autograph might be something, but like just because your card's shiny, it actually doesn't mean anything.
No, and that's it. And that's what, for the comic industry, I remember it's like, what's the new gimmick that's going to come out? What's the new gimmick that's going to come out? You know, and
Yeah,
it's funny. It's like, even companies like, I know, their imprint of DC, even Vertigo was doing some covers with, glow in the dark and things like that. So it's like, come on, it's, you know, look at your readership. Your readership doesn't care about the hologram covers. They don't care about the. They're going for the speculation market, and the speculation market was, hey, that next X-Men #1 is going to put my son through college next year.
little do they know they printed 10 million of them, and there's a bunch in a dumpster in the back of Marvel right now.
That's it.
You know,
Well, that's like all the tons of Image comics that, you know, and Spider-Man #1s and all that McFarlane stuff. Years later, you see them in the quarter bins or whatever bins. It's boxes full of them.
to me, the worst thing they ever did, the worst sort of bonus cover thing they ever did was bagging. I hated the idea that like the death of Superman was in a black bag and people would keep it sealed. It's like it's a comic. Like literally, the point is to read it. Like you could
I
have a blank book inside there, and no one would know or care.
I for years when I used to work at a comic store downtown Toronto, and when people came in during just before the speculation market, I was working there. No, actually, I was there during a speculation market, and I lost so much respect for comic books and comic industry and stuff that every book I bought, I never bagged it, bagged
Not
or
even the
boarded.
bagging like you're bagging, but like when they come
No, no,
sealed.
no, but still, it just made me lose interest in that the whole industry because it's just like this is becoming a joke now. And like you said,
Yeah,
yeah, like Superman one with the back cover. They did Superman, they did a couple of other books that were back cover like that,
yeah.
and it's like, come on, I mean, okay, they sold millions of copies, and the sad thing is, out of those, let's say they sold 1 million copies, you know, what is it? 1/3 of those people are actually comic buyers.
Yeah,
Even less than that, probably.
yeah. Well, the thing that they got the comic book buyers too, which was a bit of a scam, which probably, I worked at a comic book shop too. And the thing that they would do is they would release the bag one, like the black bag Superman, and then they'd release another one that wasn't bagged.
Yes.
And so that way you buy two.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And to me, like I said, that's a really big, like, I don't mind, to be honest, like holographic covers and shiny chrome. I actually don't mind that as it's like, I mean, you even did a little bit of that with TikTok Tom where you had that kind of cool shiny,
No, but no, I agree. What I would say is the holograms and stuff. If it's done well, if it's done well, I mean, come on, covers are covers. Covers are going to sell the book,
yeah,
and that's the gimmick that's been used throughout comic book industry.
yeah,
But the thing is, what the industry didn't realize was they were using gimmicks and what do you call it, a death of this, or Superman goes psycho or whatever, to sell the comics, and they're getting regular media attention out of it, which
yeah.
was which is not unnecessary, which is unnecessary. With the comic industry, I think it was just, and I still live by this: do a good story, good art. Same thing with movies.
Yeah. But like I said, the gimmicks to me weren't, except for bagging. Bagging was the only gimmick that I was like, I hate this. But all the gimmicks I didn't mind, but I hated the idea that like there'd be a Superman and there'd be a foiled cover, and then but there'd be one gold for every 10 comics you
Yes,
get, there'd be
that's
one
yeah.
gold. And it's like it's the
Uh,
same
I
comic, just a different color.
I think it's the same thing right now because I think now, let's say you want to get one of those special sketch covers, stores have to order. I'm just taking a guess, like 25 copies of one book to get one sketch cover.
Yeah. Yeah, sketch covers
And
is sort of the modern day gimmick cover thing.
no, but they
Um,
have those chromium covers again now.
I don't know. I've been paying attention.
Yeah,
I've
they
been,
have chromium covers and they have some other type of covers and stuff like that. It's the 90s, flashbacks to the 90s again. And that's one thing I have to say the industry hasn't learned is, readers don't, you know, okay, you're not getting new readers. New readers
yeah,
don't care about that crap. That's the problem. Old readers, either you get the, guy who still thinks, I'm saying guys because women wouldn't buy this crap. you know, guys thinking, hey, I'm gonna buy this Chromium cover. Next month it'll be worth triple this price, and I'll sell it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the speculator market is what killed it, but the fact that the industry fed into it. The thing is, I don't mind sketch covers. Like, and we have friends who do sketch covers, and I think it's awesome. Like, I think it's kind of neat
Oh,
to
I
have.
think it's a great idea. Yeah.
But you know what you do? You do like Spider-Man number 383. They're all sketch covers. You know what I mean? Like don't make
Yeah.
like make it like a thing. Like when you put out an issue of TikTok Tom, if you do a cover gimmick, it's every issue. It's not like it's like, oh, well, you only get there's only like six of these in existence. It's like
Yeah.
if I have a cool idea for a cover, that's my cover,
Yeah.
and that's
And
it.
but the thing is, as a okay, forget about all of that stuff. As a reader, I in the 90s, I was reading, like I said, I was reading Superman, I was reading Superman, even Flash, I was reading, and Marvel wise, I was reading Spider-Man. Yeah, McFarlane Spider-Man was coming to an end. I was reading Spider-Man and stuff, and then when they started changing over, when all the speculation gimmicks, everything came out, it affected the story and writing of the books also.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where I was, yeah,
The one thing that happened in the 90s is you started to get more um, poses, like full page poses and less
yes,
story.
yes.
Like that was a big part. Like the thing that killed for the readers is eventually you had an X-Men comic that you could literally read in a minute.
And here's the problem with the reading and the art was, let's say Liefeld was popular at that time. Hey, I'm just giving an example. Hey, John Byrne, draw like the Liefeld. you know, and that
Yeah.
was the problem. And certain books did not need that type of artwork in it, and and the stories, were all what do you call it, angst and aggression, and anti-hero type of stories. It's like, no, you know what? Okay, it works for certain books, but not everything.
Yeah. Like a Lobo book, you want to be anti-hero, but you don't want
Yeah,
Superman to be an anti-hero.
yeah. Superman had attitude, mullet, and what else? It's like, come on, you want good, fun stories, and that's the thing. And I think the problem of the '90s was, all the speculation markets. Okay, everything put aside, let's say, the distribution stuff that happened, everything, it killed the industry, but it lost a lot of readers. That was the main key issue.
So there's this thing that happens in the restaurant industry. And they say that a restaurant, no matter how popular it is during the holidays, so say like there's a place that's by the beach, a restaurant by the beach, no matter how popular they are during the holidays, they always have to have their local market or they'll die. So they
I agree.
always,
I
and
agree.
and comic books are the same thing. It's like you can have these booms where all of a sudden, like the death of Superman on its own is not a problem. Like it's kind of an interesting story idea. It's like,
It
what if
is.
we killed our
Yeah.
main character? But like you have to make sure that you not only appease, these speculators, to be honest, who don't care about the story at all, but you have to make sure that it's within the story and interesting, so you keep those your regulars buying, or else they die. And it's funny because we sort of felt that like we stopped buying comic books.
Well, I'll give you an example. My friend of mine used to buy Legends of the Dark Knight. He's a Batman fan. He used to buy that all the time, and he loved, reading. He wasn't one of those guys that would buy it and bag it and say, "Hey, that's going to be worth something." He read it. He enjoyed the
Yeah,
art. Then during the speculation market, they did a cover with the Joker on it, and we went into the store, and no joke, the release day, it was on the wall for $10. And he was so pissed off. He's like, I just want to buy this book to read it.
yeah,
It's a monthly book I buy every time. I want to read it. After that, he didn't buy another issue after that.
Yeah, there was a definite problem of like you would literally have to be there Wednesday morning to buy your
That's
comic
it.
books.
And that's it. And at that time, because of the speculation market, they didn't really have, what do you call it? You know, um, books put aside for you and things like that. But the thing was, it's like, you have a regular customer who comes in here all the time buying this.
Yeah,
Shouldn't you have like, okay, I know you're going to make that $10 or whatever for, at that time, it was like what, 2.99 the cover price. You're charging $10. But for that $7 profit you're making, you're losing this fan for a lifetime now.
yeah. It was sort of one of the things about like Wizard magazine and Overstreet. They started selling better than the comics because
Yes,
people were
that
more
was
interested in
yeah,
the speculation than they were in the
yeah,
actual comic.
that's it. Yep,
And I
yep.
remember even seeing books in Wizard and in Overstreet that hadn't come out yet. And so they would have a price that was more than the cover. And it's like, it's coming out next week. But the Wizard says it's already $15. It's like stores don't even have it yet.
I know, and that you know what, as you know, if I was reading that book or if I was collecting, wanting that artist, the book for the art and stuff like that, I'd be so pissed off.
Yeah. The other thing that happened too, and this happened particularly with the Nightfalls series for Batman, is it got to the point where they sort of did what X-Men did, where suddenly it's like you used to buy a title a month or every 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden to keep up with the story, you now have to buy three titles a week because there's just
Yes,
pumping so much out for one storyline. And it's
and
sort of
now
like
was
take your
yes,
time.
and even with the X-Men, you're right. Batman and X-Men, they had like what, 6, 7 titles a month.
And they would connect them.
Yeah,
So it's just like I don't I like I'll be honest,
but
and I think we've discussed this. I never really read X-Men that much because I never found a place where I felt comfortable joining. Like every time I'd read an X-Men comic, I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
But but here's the thing, and this is what I was saying earlier about Superman. I used to read Superman when George Perez was writing one of them, Roger Stern, and I can't remember who the artist was writing the other book, and
Was
someone
Jerry
else was
Ordway?
writing. Yes, Jerry Order. Sorry, yes, was doing one of them, and there's
Yeah.
3 Superman books at that time, and I bought all 3 of them. And yes, they did cross over, but as a Superman fan, I liked reading those stories because the 3 writers of the books talked to each other and connected the stories and everything. As a fanboy, it worked. And I'm not saying X-Men didn't work, but in this one it worked. But here's the thing about Batman and X-Men at that time, with the speculation market was, it was like, yeah, you had to buy like 5 to 8 books to even understand the story,
Yeah.
and that's a
Three is
lot.
handleable. Three a month is totally handleable. Once you get beyond having to buy one comic a week, I'm out.
Yeah. And they just flooded the market. Even now, I mean, look at how many Batman books they have.
I'm okay with that as long as you don't have to buy the other one. Like I read the Absolute Batman and it was great.
Yeah.
Like it
Oh,
was
was
its
it?
own
Okay.
thing. It was really creative. Like to me, sort of getting back to what I was saying at the beginning of this thing, part of the reason I get mad at the speculator boom of the 90's is that it was an opportunity where there was a bunch of people who were interested in comic books and none of the big companies other than Image, which I can't believe I'm defending Image here, but other than Image, there was a lot of companies that were like could have had the opportunity to let new creators make new things.
I
Like
agree. I 100% agree.
there was a time
Because,
when Superman didn't exist. Somebody made Superman, and now it's like this iconic thing. It's like you had the opportunity where there was a lot of money coming into comic books. You could have paid cool writers, new people, everything, underground guys, maybe get them up there, and then have them make new things in your universe. And they didn't do it. It's sort of like, and this is another weird analogy. I don't like Pablo Picasso. And one of the reasons I don't like Pablo Picasso is he was a master, a painting master, while he was still alive.
yeah.
And he could have like spent years on one painting and made enough to live off of. But he didn't. He just started making like quick little things and all that. And he abused his power as a master and didn't like the dream. All like you'd love to spend 5 years on a comic book knowing you could make enough money off that one comic book and make it perfect.
Yeah,
And he had that gift. And I think Marvel and DC had that gift where they could have made new things, brilliant new things.
I agree with you. Because if you look at the pre speculation market, they were at the time, I think DC was doing really, DC, even Marvel was doing very well on their creative teams, stories and stuff like that. Speculation market came up and said, "Hey, we can make a quick buck here. Let's go in this direction." And they threw everything aside and everyone under the boat,
Yeah.
basically. And it's like look, okay, we talked about the bad side of the industry, but there's good side like companies like Dark Horse,
Yeah.
even companies like Fantagraphics, even DC's Vertigo. Those companies were producing a lot of great books, well, alternative artists, things like that, and DC and Marvel especially, they could have taken the Image approach also, where they could have gotten a fresh new boat of young talent to say, hey, let's do some fresh ideas on these characters, but don't copy Image, don't
Yeah.
copy the Boom, do your own thing.
They could have been producing Walking Dead then.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Like they could have got the young Kirkmans and those guys who were like not at Image level yet and gone, hey, you guys have got something.
And
Scour the
this
art
is a
schools.
this is a story I remember. I was telling Tom Yo about this years ago. Um, just around the speculation market. If I remember, Mark Waid, Grant Morrison, and two other writers approached DC and they want to take over the Superman line, and DC said no. And it's like you have your top talent writers right now in the industry who are actually good writers
Yeah.
and who know how to write a story, and you tell them no.
And you could tell that the industry, that there was people that wanted to do it because if you look at Image and Dark Horse and a lot of and Fantagraphics and even Kitchen Sink, there's a lot of heroes that came out afterwards that are very sort of DC Marvel-ish. And
Yeah,
even some that have been incorporated in, like Wildstorm is now part of, I think it's Marvel, right?
no, it's Image. No, sorry, DC.
DC. So
Yeah,
Wildstorm is like, so you can even tell that people were creating characters and they were like, during
they
the
were.
boom,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
wanted them. They were like, take these guys, like let's use them. Let's work together and make this
Even
thing.
even the guy you mentioned earlier, Jerry Ordway, he did Wildstar or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
He did his own version of superhero. So I mean, why didn't DC say to him, "Hey Jerry, do you want to do something for us? Create your own new superhero, or do you have any ideas for existing characters? And do that." I
Yeah.
agree with you. Yeah, Image did a lot of Image and Wildstorm did a lot of their versions of their superheroes that we see. I
I
mean, a
think I,
whole Alan Moore line. I mean, okay, even that. I mean, like Tom Strong and those things. Come on,
yeah,
it's like DC and Marvel could have done that type of stuff.
exactly. I think they just there was so much again towards what you were saying, the foil covers, that they didn't realize that there was not only a boom in the speculator market, but there's also a bit of a boom in the creator market, and it was kind of being ignored.
I agree. I agree because they wanted the quick sale books. They didn't care about long term profits. They cared about next month's hot seller. What's going
Yeah,
to be the next month's top book? And like you said, if Wizard said, they want Wizard to acknowledge that this book's going to be a hot seller next month, and we're going to make millions off of it. But the
yeah,
thing is, with the comic industry, the long term longevity of keeping your readers was long and lost.
yeah.
As an example, for me, at that time in the 90s, I'm not joking. I used to buy like at least maybe anywhere from 10 to 20 books a month.
Yep.
Now, after the boom, I mean, after the downfall and all that stuff of the industry, I think it was cut down to maybe five.
Yeah. I pretty much quit collecting for a few years entirely. Like I just
Oh,
stopped.
same here, same here, same here. And I'll give you an example of one book, and this still pisses me off to this day. And it's as a fan and as a long-term supporter of this book, I just DC gave the middle finger to me and all the readers.
Yeah.
Hellblazer was a book, that non-superhero book, that had a solid fan base.
Yeah.
The book lasted 300 issues, you know, and DC decided, hey, let's end this book and let's restart it with a number one and do something new with it. And it's like you just gave me the middle finger and saying, you know, you don't care about me as a reader. And I bought that book every month.
Yeah. And I
And
think the problem is that too is the comic book industry hasn't been able to jump back. Like they keep doing it over and over again. Like they keep rewriting, like rebooting these image like or these
but
titles like Superman reboots and Batman
no, but
reboots.
here's the thing. What you're saying, okay, if the company just gave you the middle finger, would you come back and give them a chance?
You know, I'm okay enough that I would be like, okay, if they got new management, new writers, new artists, I still like that character. Like I still like Batman. Like to be honest, I haven't read a Batman comic in a long time, and then I read Absolute Batman, and I was like, I'm okay with it now. Like they did a good job
Okay,
on that.
I'll give you more on the Hellblazer thing. When Hellblazer ended, I was pissed off. I'm like, you know what? Love this book, love the art, love the writers. So when they ended that, my friend Ken bought me first issue of the new one. It's sitting somewhere upstairs. I don't know when it came out, 10, 15 years ago. I still haven't read it. It's at the point where I don't care anymore. It's like, you know what? I like that character. I still like that character, but you know what? You just made me lose interest in your book, And the thing is, it's you had me as a regular customer, even Superman. I got away from Superman for a long time. Then a friend suggested, hey, try out this new book. Lee Weeks is drawing it and Dan Jurgens is writing it. So I bought the first issue. Not first issue, I bought one of the middle issues, read it, and I was impressed by the story.
Mhm.
And Dan Jurgens is I like his writing.
Yeah,
So then I went back and bought the back issues, and it was very good. And of course, as soon as I get into it, they get rid of the creative team.
that's. I
It's
mean,
like,
part of the problem is that I will always forgive DC and Marvel because they're giant corporations, and so they change. Like they like 10 years from now, it'll be a different company than it is now. But I just find that so I'll forgive them always because
oh
I'm
no,
not.
yeah, I understand that. Yeah,
But the problem is they just keep rebooting and keep rebooting and
that's
keep rebooting, keep
that's
rebooting.
another issue. And the thing is, and here's one thing we forgot about to talk about. Okay, the reboot was a big issue, and they still do it now. Every couple of years they reboot it, do a new. Which okay, you could come on as, let's say, Absolute Batman. You could read your 1 through 20 Absolute Batman issues. Scott Snyder run is over. That's it. If you want to try the next book, you can. But one thing about the 90s, which also killed the market and pissed off every reader, was the crossovers.
Yes.
And that was a big bust. Honestly, that was a big bust because, you had a crossover and you had to read every title to understand the story.
That was sort of the Batman, the Nightfall when he broke his back,
Yes.
was that you had to read so many stories if you were on any one of those titles to keep up, or you just skipped it
But
over.
but at least with Nightfall, it was connected to Batman universe. But let's say, I'm trying to remember Marvel. Let's say Marvel Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
You had to read. If you're not an Iron Man fan, you had to read an Iron Man book to understand what happened. After your story.
Yeah. Annuals became unreadable.
Yes, annual. Yes.
It used to be that annuals were this nice kind of wrap up big story, but then it became that the annual was when the crossover happened. And so suddenly there's this guy Eclipso, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Last time I read Superman, he was like, flying, he was saving a train or something simple like that. And all of a sudden I'm reading the annual and he's like fighting this like master of evil with Flash
Yeah.
and Wonder Woman. And I don't know who's this other 10 characters, you know. So yeah, it
I
was
mentioned Calypso. Remember that book where they had the gem on the cover?
that wrecked so many covers.
Yes, yes.
Let's put something jagged on a cover, and then
And it was sharp, yeah.
yeah, that was the worst gimmick.
No, but still, it's the, and those crossovers, okay, you had the gimmick covers, you had the crossovers, you had, all this flashy art. What else do you need to get readers to jump off your, books and say, "Hey, I'm not coming back to this."
Yeah,
Then, then you had comic distribution stuff going on that pissed off all the retailers.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's like they just piss off their everybody that actually buys books regularly. And the thing I think that I think the gimmicks are fine. I think the crossovers are fine. I think that's all fine. But the whole thing that made it crumble for a comic book reader is the fact that they ignored the story in the background. Like
They
they did
ignored the
all that
story and they
despite
ignored
the
the
story.
story and ignored the story and ignored the artwork because it's like, well, this is the Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld are the biggest artists right now in McFarlane. We need copies of these guys, clones of these guys.
Yeah.
And you know what? It didn't work in the 80s, it didn't work in the 70s, it didn't work in the 90s.
And that's why Image survived is because rather than finding clones, they're like, hey, look at this new style. Let's try it out.
I mean, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they had Neil Adams, guys trying to copy Neil Adams. And it's like, you know what? If I want Neil Adams, I'll go and buy a Neil Adams book.
Yeah. And
you
it's
know,
different though if an artist decides to copy somebody than when you can tell when an artist is sort of like, oh yeah, he's obviously inspired by this person, is compared to when you know that the editor is like, okay, draw like that person.
that was the issue in the 90s. In the 80s and stuff, 70s and 80s, I think the artist was more inspired by yeah, you're right, inspired by the previous artists or whatever. But in the 90s, they purposely tried making, hey, we want this style. And I remember, top of my head, I don't remember the artist, but I remember some artists, their style was completely different than what Liefeld and theirs was. And later on, they tried copying those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And some managed and some just didn't.
No, it's not even managing. It's like, you know what, just try it in your own style. But I'm sure
Yeah.
the editor said, you know what, this stuff sells. We need to do this. We need to do that. And here's the problem. It's like, you know what, some artists could fill up a page with thousands of details of every single thing. Like background, put every detail, every nut and bolt in that, in
Or
that
Stephen Platt
construction
who put
vehicle.
every bullet casing.
Yeah, that's it. And for some people, it works. For some people, it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's, and I think 90s the bus part was it just to this day, I think we're still bitter about
To a degree, I'm getting out of it, but yes,
it.
like
But
I
it's a
said, I gave
long time.
Absolute Batman a try, and I was like, actually, it's pretty good. So
Yeah, but again, it's like, compared to the pre-90s or the bus part, you were more of a comic fan and you look forward to Wednesdays going to a comic shop and stuff. Now, do you even care about Wednesdays?
not in the slightest. So
None of my friends do. Before it was a ritual going, every Wednesday. Hey, let's go to a comic shop. Let's see what's new. Even though
yeah,
we didn't buy much, we still went and looked.
yeah, yeah,
Now it's like, hey, new Batman, absolute Batman's up. Don't care.
yeah,
Attitude,
yeah,
which is sad because you and I love comics.
yeah. Fortunately, there's a whole bunch of comics in the past that I can look at and enjoy.
Now, here's a question which is which you and I and people our age grew up with the 90s. Let's just call it comic bust. And now, new readers who are coming on to the industry now, I wonder how they feel about comics. Are they buying it? Because even certain comic shops I go into, I see sketch cover, like alternative covers, chromium covers, things like that. Are they going in thinking, hey, I want to buy, I saw the Iron Man movie, I want to buy an Iron Man comic to read? Or are they still thinking like the 90s attitude? You know, hey, I'm gonna bag and board this. It might be worth something.
I think it's half and half. I think there's like you go to a if you go to the if you go to a bookstore and see the manga section, you see people who are flipping through the books intently and wanting to read it. And I think that there's a group that really loves the reading the stories and the comics. But then I think there probably is some people that are looking at going, well, my basketball cards are going up in value. Maybe these comics will too. I think you're getting both.
But
But
here's the thing: with manga and European comics, we can't really compare that to North American comics because, um, my daughter, as an example, she got this manga book. A friend got it for her because it was sold out everywhere. And when he got it, he goes, "Oh, by the way, it's second print." My daughter didn't care.
yeah, and that's the people that are going to keep the comic book industry alive.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's I love that attitude. It's like I don't care if it's second print.
Yeah,
Where a comic fan would say, second print, I don't want that. I want first print.
yeah,
Oh, I want the cover of this guy, this artist's cover because that's the first print.
yeah. We should probably wrap this up because we're running out of time.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, I think the industry, I think it's saving itself a little bit. It's getting better, but I think it's going to be different than it was before the boom.
But here, one final note on all of this is it too late for the
No,
industry?
no. As long as you and I are making comic books, it's not too late.
For our versions of comics and stuff, yes, it's not late. For mainstream, I don't know. I don't
Yeah, I don't
know.
know either. We should
Yeah.
wrap up.
Okay. See you next time.
Make and buy comics.
Yes. Yes. Okay, that was a bad ending.